The theme of this year's colloquium is the grand challenges, energy development and global health. Here the term grand challenges has multiple meanings. First, a grand challenge is a problem that is both significant and complex, representing irreducible mixtures of social, political, and environmental challenges. We've identified three areas that clearly meet this definition. Those are energy, development, and global health. All of these issues present a set of additional intellectual challenges. Solutions to these problems do not lie within the realm of any single academic discipline. All touch on the social and policy sciences, the natural sciences, and engineering, as well as ask for extensive attention to humanistic and cultural concerns. For example, the energy crisis encompasses the environmental problems of climate change and air pollution, the political and economic problems of energy security, price volatility, and Middle East instability. The myriad of engineering problems that stand in the way of practical alternatives to fossil fuels. Rural poverty in developing nations is simultaneously a problem in development economics and policy, and in land use, and in biodiversity and hydrology. Emerging infectious disease demand new drugs from engineers and molecular biologists, epidemiological models from mathematical ecologists, and healthcare policy options from social scientists. So the Princeton Environmental Institute, the Woodrow Wilson School, and the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences now propose to develop a new program of teaching and research around these grand challenges that share these dominant environmental, political, social, and engineering dimensions. But as any of you with the faintest familiarity with academic institutions know that such interdisciplinary efforts may generate the grandest challenges of all. But Princeton University is up to the task and has launched an ambitious initiative to bring the best minds in social science, policy, science, and engineering together in an integrative approach to research and teaching designed to ameliorate and illuminate all of these pressing problems. The new initiative is a program of teaching and research to examine each of these grand challenges in depth with a focus on their interrelated causes and potential interdisciplinary solutions. Each of the three grand challenge initiatives will support and integrate undergraduate education, graduate education, and research. In the area of undergraduate education, the project will focus on developing new freshman seminars, environmental policy and engineering task forces, competitive summer internships, and provide additional senior thesis research funding. On the graduate level, it will engage graduate students through a competitive fellowship competition. And on the faculty level, it will create new research cooperatives that cut across the many disciplines and approaches necessary to solve these problems. Let me say a few words about the grand challenge most closely affiliated with the Woodrow Wilson School. That is the Global Health Grand Challenge. The Global Health Challenge will be defined as a multidisciplinary approach to research and teaching. It will build and maintain programs that bridge the disciplines, from the natural sciences and engineering to social sciences and humanities to public policy. This multidisciplinary approach will distinguish Princeton's institute from many global health centers that are siloed in professional schools. It also acknowledges the reality that global health problems do not have one-dimensional solutions. Scientific advances alone are unlikely to solve global health problems, nor are increased levels in international funding. Instead, improvements in global health will likely come from the complex interplay between new scientific advances, changes in environmental, social, economic, and political factors that influence health and health care. Princeton, with its excellence across disciplines and low barriers between disciplines, is in a position to provide the nuanced research that's required to make a difference. Like all of the grand challenges, solution to global health problems will require input from multiple disciplines. Scientific advances in such areas as the development and delivery of vaccines, the diagnosis and treatment of chronic health conditions, and knowledge of the genetic underpinnings of health outcomes are undeniably important. Yet political, economic, and social factors influence the production and dissemination of new technologies. International and domestic policies shape the distribution of healthcare resources across and within countries. The focal areas that will be chosen to have research components will span the disciplines, again, from science to engineering and policy, with the goal of producing knowledge that will lead to improvements in global health. Now I'd like to introduce two of our partners in this endeavor, who will speak both in terms of their perspective on the Global Challenges Initiative, as well as perhaps some remarks about their own particular interests. The first person I'd like to introduce is Stephen Pacala, who joined the Princeton faculty in 1992 and currently holds the Frederick D. Petrie Chair in the Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology, and is the director of the Princeton Environmental Institute. He received his PhD in biology from Stanford in 1982. And then next, I would like to introduce H. Vincent Poore, who joined the Princeton faculty in 1990. He's currently the Dean of Engineering and Applied Science and the Michael Henry Strater University Professor of Electrical Engineering. He received his PhD from Princeton in 1977. Let me turn it over to Steve.
Good morning, everyone. The Grand Challenges program that Nolan has just been talking about was designed with what I view as one of the most vexing and long-standing problems in university life. It's the tension between the basic and the applied, the tension between the disciplinary and the interdisciplinary, and the tension between the tractable and intractable. I want to emphasize this by just talking about two different strata of the university, faculty on the one hand and undergraduates on the other, and I'll let you interpolate between those two, and it's pretty easy, in fact, to do. As a faculty person, you have to ask yourself, what got you here? Princeton is a bastion of basic scholarship. We're one of the best places in the world, despite our size, because we've been so steadfast in our pursuit of basic scholarship. I like to say in the sciences that if you go anywhere in this university and scratch someone, you've just scratched a theoretician. The problem, of course, with that is that to be a basic scholar means to pursue problems that are pregnant, that are ready to be answered, the most tractable unanswered problems in the world today. But the problems that humanity most needs to solve are precisely the problems that are not pregnant, that are not ready to be solved, and that are intractable and long-standing despite their importance precisely because they're intractable. The motto of the university is Princeton in the nation's service and in the service of all nations, and that's a great motto. But the incentive structure within the university is kind of the opposite. All right? The pursuit of the intractable is a recipe not to get tenure as a junior faculty and a recipe to keep your salary flat or even declining in real terms as a senior faculty. So how do you allow people who are creative, some of the best minds in the world, how do you recruit them into the problem to deliver on what many believe is their obligation under a social contract? Many of us on the faculty believe that we have been curiosity parasites all of our lives, and it's time to do some payback. But how do you get in and still keep the day job? The Grand Challenges program was designed specifically to allow faculty to do that and to recruit some of the best minds who think orthogonal to these problems to come in and inject new ideas into them. And it does so by lowering the price of admission. If I were, for instance, to decide that I wanted to work on development in African poverty, especially rural poverty, I'd have to sort of stop everything, retool, and start to apply for federal money. But this allows people a way in to take part of their time, deliver part of their minds to it, and find out whether or not something lights up. And some, in my experience, migrate over into this problem organically and naturally and in a way that's productive. Some don't, some migrate the other way. Now, at the undergraduate, for undergraduates, the problem is very, very similar. The problem with being an undergraduate is that to get here, you have to have been an unbelievably good resume builder, and then the Princeton formula is to cloister you in the university and teach you a discipline to sharpen your mind. And of course, this is something that's absolutely necessary. The fact is that if you go to places that only do interdisciplinary education, what you find is a bunch of mushy people who seem to know a lot about everything in general, but nothing in particular. Disciplinary educations are great for sharpening the mind, but they leave you unprepared to deal with the problems of the world. And thus, many of the most successful people's careers are sequential. There's a long period of being remarkably successful, and then a small period of philanthropy at the end when they try to make amends, right? That's what we're all doing. So how do you allow undergraduates, just like the faculty, to have their cake and eat it too? To pursue their disciplinary education, to develop the sharp mind, and start to deliver on the social contract and prepare themselves from it from the beginning. And the answer is there isn't enough time in the academic year. So what do? You use the time that's not in the academic year. The Grand Challenges program is designed to set up research infrastructures on some of these most important problems that confront humanity. We have a big capital infrastructure invested in Kenya. We've got a big infrastructure invested in studying the energy and climate problem all over here. We have a big infrastructure that we're building all over the world on the health problem. This allows a way for undergraduates to become embedded as interns and as researchers in every summer if they want to, and link together a series of off-seasons together with a thesis in the same problem, but inside their own discipline. And when you put all that together with a couple of courses during the on-season, you've got an experience as deep and rich in the major, but it's experiential and it's interdisciplinary, and you still have the disciplinary major. So I think this may be a way, finally, to settle the tension between the disciplinary and the interdisciplinary, between the basic and the applied, and between the tractable and the intractable. And that's why I'm so excited about being part of it. It's also the case that these problems that we're talking about are among the most important problems that confront humanity. We've got great talent here in the undergraduates. We've got great talent in the graduate students, great talent in the postdocs, and great talent in the faculty. And somebody is going to light up on some of these problems, and we're actually going to make some headway that others haven't. And obviously only time will tell when this occurs, but I predict that we will see Princeton emerge as leaders in some of these areas that they have been very prominent in, but not as visible as certainly we will be in the future. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Vince. We'll hear a lot about the details of these programs and the problems that they cover during the next 2 days.
Thank you, Steve. Good morning. Let me also welcome you to this colloquium and back to Princeton, I think, in most cases. Well, as a dean, Steve, I'd really like to figure out how to apply that declining salary strategy on a few particular people. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, there are a lot of academic challenges in the grand challenges in addition to the sort of bigger, more global challenges. But anyway, I'm really delighted that the grand challenges is the subject of the colloquium this year. I think it's a very exciting time at Princeton. It's a very exciting partnership between engineering school, the Woodrow Wilson School, and PEI. It involves a lot of people on campus throughout the sciences, engineering, the humanities, and the social sciences, so it's really a very exciting thing. And as Steve pointed out, it also involves our educational mission in a very intimate way, beginning at the freshman level all the way up through postdoc level. As Nolan mentioned, all these topics of the colloquium, energy, development, global health, are very big and complex problems, and they're seemingly intractable, as Steve mentioned. So solving them really requires vision, expertise, of course, and commitment. And, for many people, we need many people to look at these problems from many angles. So that's why you see sort of the representation you see here up at the front this morning. And, of course, the solutions require investments in science and technology, but it also requires very wise policy making, resource allocation, and so forth. So these are problems that just can't be solved otherwise. But it also requires a bold vision and a commitment that these challenges must be solved, and they can be solved. And as Steve alluded, that the academy, in particular Princeton, is a place where they can be addressed. So the Grand Challenges Initiative basically reflects that vision, and this is a vision that we're trying to impart in our students, despite all the other demands on their time and attention. Now, as dean, one of the things I'm often asked is, what are the priorities of the engineering school? And when I answer this question, I usually give the following answer, which is probably the kind of answer you might also hear from Nolan about the Woodrow Wilson School and from Steve about PEI. And that is that our priorities really are the priorities of society. That is, how do we produce energy to run our economic system without destroying our economy, that is, while protecting our economy? And how do we improve the health of people around the world? And also, how do we secure our communities? How do we secure the infrastructure? How do we secure the internet, for example? And so forth. So these are societal problems, but they all have major technological, scientific, political, economic, societal aspects to them. These are very multidimensional problems, and they're not addressed only by engineers. Engineers have a role, but we recognize that these are problems that are addressed more broadly. And that's really what the Grand Challenges are about. It's also this aspect of problems that really inspires most of our students in engineering. They're inspired by the idea that the technology that they develop as engineers can have a major impact on the lives of people and improving society. So I could talk about several examples, but I'm looking at the clock there, and maybe I'll stick to one example, sort of a small example. Here we're talking about the Grand Challenges, but I want to just give you sort of a bit of the flavor of the kinds of things that are going on in the school in this general idea. For example, one of the things that our students are very interested in these days is the developing world. And, of course, the word developing itself implies that there are technological challenges there. So, we're looking at problems of addressing technological innovation to improve the lives of some of the poorest parts of the world, rural developing communities, in particular in Africa, in Kenya and Nigeria specifically. So one of my colleagues, Wally Sobiejo, who's a professor of mechanical and aerospace engineering, is very interested in this problem. He himself is African by origin, so he knows a lot about the African continent from a personal experience. And he sees the same things we do. He sees that there are billions of people in the world who don't have the basic things that we have in the developed world. Clean water, electricity, the ability to communicate beyond small local communities, even light at night, things that we just take for granted. And these are all, of course, technological things. So he's an engineer, of course, and he sees technological solutions to these kinds of problems. For example, he knows about solar energy. He knows about small, inexpensive, simple solar systems that could bring electricity to rural villages in Africa, for example. So he wants to apply these technologies to improve quality of life in these regions. And he takes students to Africa to deploy technologies like this. He teaches about it here at Princeton. He goes there in the summer. He does all sorts of things. But also, he realizes that it's not all about technology. He knows that the people have to be receptive to the technology. It has to be the right technology. And sometimes technologies displace people, other ways of life for people. So in addition to teaching students about the technology itself, he teaches them about the effect of the technology on people. And when he goes to deploy technology, they work with the leaders in villages, the community members, and so forth, to be sure that this is the right thing for them, that they understand the implications, and so forth. And I should say that Wally's classes tend not to be, and activities tend not to be restricted to engineering students. There are students from all across campus who participate in the activities and the classes that he's involved with. So as dean, let me just mention that, I've seen firsthand how these kinds of experience really motivate students to study engineering. Whether they have a career doing that or not, that is helping developing regions develop or not, it still shows them how important technology is to society, how important things like policy and science are in technology, and how it all has to fit together. So the whole point of Grand Challenges is to sort of impart that to, of course we want to solve the problems, but as educators, what we really want to do is to bring along the next generation of leaders who understand the problems and who know how you go about solving the problems. So this is a very Princetonian type thing. It's a vision that we all share. And that's really what the Grand Challenge is about. It's trying to put that vision into practice through our own research and through our students' lives. So again, let me welcome you to this. I hope you have a very interesting next 2 days, and I look forward to seeing you the rest of the day. Thank you.